There is an enormous amount of hype around the 2024 quarterback class, and for good reason. There is a great prospect that will go number 1 overall in Caleb Williams, and there are not just one, but multiple quarterbacks that will go in the first round. In today's video, we will be breaking down the 2024 quarterback class and have a ranking for them based on where they currently are and how high their ceiling is. We will be breaking down each player's strengths, weaknesses, potential landing spots, and everything in between. We all know why we're here, so let's dive right in. Bo Nix is the first player we are breaking down in today's video, and Bo has had quite the career path since his freshman year at Auburn back in 2019. There was a lot of skepticism regarding Bo's future, but he had a great final 2 years at Oregon and capped his career off with a 4,500-yard, 45 passing touchdown season with the Ducks in 2023, while completing 77% of his passes. Completing 77% of your passes for an entire season is a big deal, and it would set an NFL record, and second place would not be close. But what has scouts concerned with Nix moving forward is how little Oregon attacked downfield in 2023, and that there was a reason Nix completed 77% of his passes in 2023. Nearly 30% of his passes were thrown behind the line of scrimmage, and the reality of this is if you are a Division I quarterback, let alone a potential first-round NFL prospect, you should be hitting those passes. Not only that, but there were a lot more passes from Nix that were 10 yards or less from the line of scrimmage, and because of this, there's a lot of mixed opinions on him as a prospect. I think Nix is a good prospect, and I like his game a lot as he transitions to the NFL level. I think this is a classic case of a guy who has the ability to not just play, but be good in the NFL for a long time. The big thing with Nix and why I like him as a prospect is the classic focus on what a guy can do versus what he cannot do. He has great size, he's accurate, he's athletic, and he can do one thing that NFL coaches in today's era love at a high level, and that's throw on the move. I would completely understand the hesitancy of getting behind Bo Nix if you strictly watched his Auburn tape, but he improved a lot during his final 2 years at Oregon. Yes, there are some concerns with how open his receivers were at times, most notably Troy Franklin, or how he wasn't asked to throw in the tight windows consistently and play in a pro-style offense, but again, Nix showed a lot of flashes of the player he can be in the pros. I think a team will take a chance on him higher than you think because of both his athleticism and his accuracy. I think there's going to be a team that will convince themselves of those two traits, which are imperative to have in today's NFL, and say, we can work with this, and we can have him be our guy for the next several years, hopefully decade plus. I think the most likely landing spots for Nix at this point in time are Denver or Las Vegas, but we will see how the draft plays out. There are some people who are concerned with his age, as he will be a 24-year-old rookie, but I'm not too concerned with his age because of how much he has improved since the early days at Auburn. If he threw for 35 touchdowns in the SEC in 2019, then had 2 down years, then had 2 okay years at Oregon, and we were trying to convince ourselves that he can be a good player based on the early years at Auburn, it would be a different story. But Bo has continuously gotten better, he makes the right reads more often than not, and he rarely puts the ball in harm's way. I like Nix's game a lot, especially in today's NFL. Next up is Michael Penix from Washington, and like Bo Nix, he will be a 24-year-old rookie, and that is one of the causes for concern with Michael as a prospect. Not only that, but Michael also tore his ACL twice in the same knee during his time at Indiana. Penix threw 29 touchdowns in 4 limited seasons during his time with the Hoosiers, before throwing for 30 or more touchdowns in each of his years at Washington. When you watch Penix on tape, the first thing that jumps out is his arm strength. I think from day one, Penix will have one of the strongest arms in the entire NFL, and it showed up time and time again during his time at Washington. He can make throws comfortably from far hash, he can flick his wrist and throw the ball 65 yards, or he can hit a guy in a very tight window. As much as I love that about Penix's game, and as fun as some of those passes to Rome or Jalen Polk were during the 23 season, I have concerns with Michael as he transitions to the NFL level, because there wasn't a lot of times on tape where you saw Penix go from a 98-mile-an-hour fastball to an 86-mile-an-hour changeup to hit a guy with touch on the ball. Having a quarterback like Penix is fun to watch, but I worry about him in the intermediate part of the field in the NFL. One of the bigger things about Penix that he was absolutely not afraid to do in 2023 is big game hunt. He knew he had Rome Odunze at all times, and if you know anything about Rome, you know he is one hell of a contested catcher, and Penix is never afraid to go for the big play. You love to see that, and you love to see a quarterback make a slam dunk of a throw, but there is concern that Penix at times was a little too reliant on throwing those jump balls to Odunze, Polk, or McMillan. I also think there's some times on tape where people are too wowed by Penix's arm strength, and that his accuracy could, in fact, be better. For reference, Penix had the lowest completion percentage on deep throws, or 20 plus yards down the field in 2023, out of the Big Six quarterbacks, and it wasn't particularly close. Penix completed just 43.6% of his passes in this part of the field, while throwing 7 interceptions, and the next closest to him was Drake May, who completed 47.1% of his passes on throws 20 or more yards down the field. This is all per PFF, by the way. Everyone else was at 51% or higher, and I don't think Penix is as good of a downfield thrower as some people may think he is. Yes, the highlight reel plays are there, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Now, to at least be fair here on the 7 interceptions part, Penix threw 117 passes at this depth, and the next closest was Drake May, who threw 85. When projecting Penix to the NFL, I think it's important not just for him, but for any quarterback to have a good supporting cast. But I think it's especially important for Penix because he had great receivers during his time at Washington, and he had a good offensive line too. That's also not to say he was only good because of his teammates, but him having an above-average offensive line will be critical for his success in the NFL. He also does a good job of scanning the field and has made throws that several NFL quarterbacks wouldn't dare to attempt. I like Michael's game, but I think situation for him specifically is very critical for him in regards to his NFL success. Now, with the breakdown of this year's quarterback class, have you ever thought about having NFL memorabilia signed by the stars of today or even the stars of tomorrow? It may seem far-fetched due to high cost standing in the way of starting a collection, but there is an accessible way to start collecting, and that's through live breaks. Live breaks are events where a host opens boxes of memorabilia and gives you a shot to win authentic sports memorabilia for a fraction of the cost. It's simple. Dive into the action by buying a spot and pick what type of memorabilia you want to win and secure with an easy payment. Then watch the excitement unfold live. If the piece Ultimate Autographs unveils matches your spot, you win and it's yours to keep. Ultimate live streams 3 times per day and players buy a chance to win signed and authenticated sports memorabilia. They also have a huge reward program called the Signature Club, and every dollar spent stacks to more savings and chances and plays to win. You can join Ultimate Autographs community and receive 15% off your first order using the link in the description or the pinned comment. That's 15% off your first order, and a big thank you to Ultimate Autographs for sponsoring today's video. JJ McCarthy may be the most controversial quarterback prospect in the draft, and he is the next quarterback we're going to discuss. JJ threw 22 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions during his final year with the Wolverines, in which they would go on to win the national championship. There is a lot to like about JJ as an NFL prospect. He has a very strong arm, as he was clocked at 61 miles per hour at the combine. He's athletic, and he can make plays off script. The highlight plays are very high, as they usually have JJ on the move in some capacity, as he keeps his head up scanning the field only to find Roman Wilson, or anybody else, 25 yards down the field. But remember, they're highlight plays and not who JJ is as a down-to-down player. Like with Michael Penix, there's not a lot of touch on throws, and that is something you would like to see at the NFL level. McCarthy is just 21 years old, and I do think that is something that can be worked on and coached out of him, but with him and Penix, they cannot be strictly fastball throwers in the NFL. Not only that, but there were several times on tape where I came away frustrated with JJ because there were plenty of times where guys were open in front of him, and he chose to hold on to the ball, and whatever happens after that is a flip of the coin. Sometimes it'll turn into a big play, but oftentimes it does not. When you think of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, no matter who you just thought of when I said that, one of the best things any of those guys do is consistently take what the defense gives them. Yes, even the best sometimes get impatient and force passes, but that was one thing I came away from watching JJ's film, is wanting more of taking what's there rather than waiting for a bigger play to open up. I also thought there were several times where JJ threw a touchdown pass that would probably be an interception in the NFL, and one play I specifically think of is the 1-2 Roman Wilson against Nebraska. The biggest thing with JJ's evaluation is he cannot go to a situation and expect to turn the franchise around from day one and be the guy. If JJ is expected to be a hero from day one, then the franchise that drafts him would be setting him up for failure. I know some people love to discuss the lack of big numbers compared to the rest of the class, most notably only having 8 passing attempts against Penn State, but I don't think that's a huge deal when evaluating McCarthy as an NFL draft prospect. He threw 332 passes in 2023 and over 650 over the last 2 years, and the tape is there. Also, when you have Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards to hand the ball off to, if you are an offensive play caller for Michigan, why wouldn't you play bully ball against almost every team you play? JJ is best suited for a situation like Minnesota rather than a situation like New England, where he would go into a situation where he could sit behind Sam Darnold for a few games, as laughable as that may sound, and get to learn from Kevin O'Connell and quarterback coach Josh McCown. JJ is only 21 years old, and if he is thrust into a bad situation, then I think there is a very real reality of him being a draft bust. There is a lot to like with JJ, but he needs time, and that's completely fine. Jayden Daniels from LSU is up, and there is a lot to like about Daniels' game. Daniels won the Heisman in 2023 after throwing for 40 touchdowns and rushing for an additional 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns during his final year at LSU. He is a very good dual-threat quarterback, and he is a very accurate passer. There are some people that have Jayden as their number 2 quarterback in the draft, and to be completely honest, I can understand why. Throwing 40 touchdowns in the SEC is not something many players can say they have done, and every game there were seemingly not just one, but several highlight reel plays, whether that was on a deep ball to Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr., or by Jayden using his legs. Due in large part to his dual threat ability, he should have a reasonably high floor from the start. What I want to emphasize with Jayden is, for as good as he is as a runner, which he is an elite runner by the way, he is not a quarterback looking to run as soon as he gets the ball. He keeps defenses honest, and he has shown times where he is a true full field reader that can and will work through his progressions. There aren't many negatives about Daniels' game, but one thing that does show up and is noticeable is his arm strength isn't close to what some of the other guys in this class is, and out of the quarterbacks discussed in today's video, I think he has the weakest arm, and I don't think it's debatable. Saying he has the weakest arm in this class doesn't mean it's a bad thing or that he can't throw the ball more than 35 yards down the field, but Jayden doesn't have the same zip or oomph behind the football, and there were a couple of times on tape where he underthrew passes, and when you're in the same class as guys like Drake May, Caleb Williams, and especially Michael Penix from a velocity or arm strength standpoint, it is going to stand out. There's also inconsistencies with Daniels in terms of him reading the field. There are times where he looks like an NFL quarterback from a processing standpoint within the pocket, but there's also times where he would get stuck on a read, which every quarterback does to be clear, but more often than you would like. What I also worry about with Jayden as he transitions to the NFL level is if he goes to a bad situation and is expected to be a hero from day one. Going from throwing to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas to anywhere in the NFL, or more specifically the top 2 or 3 teams selecting in the NFL draft, is almost a guarantee that he will be throwing to a less talented receiving core in the NFL than what he had in his final year in college, which isn't ideal as the talent playing against him only gets better too. There's also the concerns around his frame as Jayden is tall and thin, and while I think there is merit to those concerns, I think they are a tad overemphasized by the national media. The highlight they will point to is the play against Ole Miss, but when you run the ball 135 times in a season, you are going to take a few hits here and there. I'm not saying the frame for Jayden isn't something to be concerned about, I just think it's a little bigger of a deal in the media than what it should be. Jayden is not a great athlete at the quarterback position. He's an elite athlete with phenomenal acceleration, speed, and makes guys miss. He is also a good pocket passer and is a very accurate passer too. In the right place, he can be a good NFL quarterback for a long time. There are some limitations to his game, but that's on NFL coaching to maximize the player he can become at the NFL level. Drake Maye is a very interesting prospect because there has been a ton of discussion, both good and bad, around Maye over the past few months. Some people think Maye is a very good prospect, while others have him as a boom or bust prospect and think that the lows are, in fact, very low. I would agree that the lows with Maye are low and that he sometimes forces passes he doesn't need to, but I think the positives for him far outweigh the bad. Drake has undeniable arm talent, and some of his best highlight reel plays are amongst the best you'll find. There will be throws where he's falling backwards, yet still throws the ball 30 yards in air, or throw a ball into an extremely tight window with the game on the line, or make a play that not a lot of, forget college quarterbacks, but NFL quarterbacks can make. He is a big, mobile quarterback that will make some downright insane throws, but the lows are a lot of the time just simply Maye missing throws. Yes, like every young quarterback, he will force passes that result in interceptions, but there's times where you watch Maye on tape and the receiver was open and he flat out misses the throw. Like with Caleb, I think there is a bit of prospect fatigue with Maye, and what also needs to be remembered with Drake is how much of a rushing element he brings to the game. Drake is not a standard pocket passer that can't move, and a guy that makes an occasional splash play that also misses a lot of throws. He, to me, is a blend of Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, and whether or not he reaches that ceiling, of course, is to be determined, but the flashes are there. Now, on the bottom side of this, I have seen some people comp Drake Maye to Daniel Jones, due in large part to the athleticism and, well, missing standard throws. One of Maye's strengths is his ability, and his fearlessness for that matter too, to throw the ball over the middle of the field. There are some quarterbacks in the NFL that avoid throwing across the middle at nearly all costs, and the first one of course to come to mind here is Russell Wilson, but during the 2023 season, Drake was 28 of 48 when throwing across the middle 10 plus yards down the field, and threw 4 touchdowns to just 1 interception. He also had a passer rating of 116.1, and per PFF, 6 of those 48 passes were dropped by Maye's receivers, which was another common theme when watching Maye's tape in 2023. Dropped balls and his receivers not being able to get separation. In a way, I think this will only help Maye translate to the NFL, because there were a lot of throws he made in 2023 that were NFL throws, and he's already used to throwing into tight spaces, which obviously won't change as he becomes a pro. Oh, and his offensive line was also bad, so as long as he doesn't go to a situation that absolutely fails him from the start, he should be just fine. I think there are 3 teams in the mix of drafting Drake at this point, and they are Washington, New England, and Minnesota. If he goes to New England with the current situation they have, whether it's Drake Maye or anybody, I have a hard time seeing them succeed with the way their roster currently is. Washington would be a little better, but Minnesota would be by far the best situation for Maye to succeed in. There are far too many positives in Drake's game to not take him comfortably in the top 5. He is a damn good prospect, but like every quarterback, he just needs some support. We are on to Caleb Williams from USC, and simply put, there is a lot to like about Williams' game as he transitions to the next level. He can throw from any and every arm angle, he can throw on the move, he can extend the play and scan the field while on the run, and make absurd throws, and due to all of these factors, he has earned some lofty comparisons as he transitions to the NFL, rightfully so, might I add. I think the negatives around Caleb's game are a little overblown, and I think prospect fatigue is a very real thing for Caleb because of how good of a player he's been for so long. The biggest thing that I want to emphasize with Caleb is he, nor really anyone for that matter, is a perfect prospect. Caleb shows the highest of highs, but will also show some lows too, like every NFL player. Ultimately, we are talking about a player that threw 72 touchdowns during his final 2 seasons in college to just 10 interceptions. With how some people in the media talk about him and with how he is sometimes perceived, you would think Caleb would have thrown double-digit interceptions per year, and that this was a quarterback getting moved up the board simply due to positional value and the media overhyping him. The one big thing with Caleb that I would like to see go down as he goes to the NFL is his turnover-worthy play percentage under pressure. If there is one thing to note that should not go unnoticed, it's how much Caleb put the ball in harm's way in 2023 while under pressure versus 2022. Per PFF, Caleb had 16 turnover-worthy plays while under pressure in 2023 on just 102 passing attempts, compared to 4 turnover-worthy plays on 106 passing attempts in 2022 with the Trojans. There are several factors to this, but one big thing that I don't think gets brought up a lot in Caleb's draft evaluation is the game flow USC dealt with in 2023. USC allowed 395 points in the final 10 games of 2023 for an average of 39.5 points per game. Whether your quarterback is Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, or Patrick Mahomes, asking any quarterback to put up an average of 40 points for the majority of the season and effectively play hero ball every single Saturday is a lot. And I think that's a big reason as to why it appeared Caleb put the ball in harm's way significantly more in 23 than he did in 22. We covered this in a big way in a Caleb Williams video, which will be linked at the end, but putting him in a situation with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, and more is a great situation for him to walk into in year 1. I know some people will look at the low light plays from Caleb and suggest his floor is low and that things can go bad, but I think Caleb does enough things right that his floor is still considerably high for a rookie quarterback, that is. He is my number 1 quarterback and he has the highest ceiling in the class. I think this is a classic case of a quarterback who has been entirely overthought, and I can't wait to see how he and the rest of the 2024 class plays at the NFL level. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe as each help the channel tremendously, and a big thank you to Ultimate Autographs for sponsoring today's video. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.